No be juju.
The African mythology podcast you never knew you needed.
Vibes.
We're no mythologists, just two young Nigerians with a relatively recent interest in African mythology and storytelling. In each episode, we'll be recounting various myths and legends across the African continent, while drawing parallels between them as well as mass culture today. It's all vibes, not.
Oh,
Hello!
hello. Hi, guys. Wait, we're back.
We are actually back.
Woohoo.
Celebrations. Hope you've all been good. Life has not been lifing too much.
Yep. Yeah, glad to be back with another episode.
Yeah.
Uh,
This one's going to be a little bit different from the rest. So obviously this is Nobi Juju, the African mythology podcast, where most of our episodes we've discussed like various like myths from various African cultures. But today will be we said that we would also kind of touch on various like legends, like African legendary figures and folk tales and things like that. So today we're actually going to be focusing on a significant, extremely significant African historical figure and like a
mhm.
legend in his own right. But yeah, we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah. And before we get into, I'm sure everybody's from the title, we're talking about Shaka Zulu today. But before we get into talking about him, we are going to go into our vibe of the week or vibes of the week, depending on how many we have.
This is a fact.
Vibe of the week. All right. You go first.
Okay, vibe of the week. So, my first vibe would be a series that I recently discovered, The Other Black Girl. So yeah, it's based on a novel, and it's kind of like corporate America through the eyes of a black woman meets Get Out. That's the
Hmm.
vibe. But the vibes it delivers on, like, the acting is really good, the fashions, the styling really good, and the storyline is pretty interesting, well paced. Yeah, it was just really enjoyable. Like, I binged the whole thing within a very very short span of time. um
That will you disclose this amount of time?
um it's better if I just keep that information confidential.
Okay, okay. We shall not
Yes.
disclose
Yeah.
this information.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was my first vibe. So strongly recommend if you're looking for something to watch, you can watch that. And the second vibe of the week,
Multiple vibes.
actually, this
Because
vibe,
we're actually mostly here for vibes.
we're
So
mostly here for
give us
vibes.
that we indulge in this section.
We are mostly here for vibes, but this vibe was truly epic, truly epic. It's actually a musical vibe. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It's
please
just
expand.
I just discovered this truly incredible artist. This truly incredible artist.
Who is it?
I will drop the name and the link for you guys because I I want you to feel the impact, and I want you to feel just the genius,
Who is
you
it?
know. Um, I giving you guys this information, it's like gold to me, but I will be generous and I will share this with you. So this artist, just Google T underscore MI on SoundCloud, on Twitter, you know, be amazed.
Okay.
TMI on
Mhm.
SoundCloud, on Twitter. If you're into, musical fusion, you're into R&B, you're into old school hip hop, you're into rock, you're into the lo-fi. TMI has it all.
Wow. It seems like every genre imaginable
Yeah.
is, so it's gonna hit everybody.
It's
Everybody,
just
everybody can, can relate
everything
to this.
for everyone. I haven't felt this way about an
I
artist
can imagine. Can
in a
imagine.
long time. But yeah.
Never heard you speak so, empathically.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, truly, truly music that is dear to my heart. So yeah. TMI on SoundCloud and on Twitter.
Okay. We'll definitely be linking that
Yes.
in the wherever we link things. Actually, I don't
Yeah.
even know where this is going to be linked.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
wherever we link things, it will be linked.
It will be linked. It will be linked. Yes. But yeah, please, what are your vibes of the week?
All right. So my first vibe is show that recently finished. It's called The Bear. I feel like
Hmm.
you've have you watched it before?
I tried to watch.
You didn't like it. It's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
It's an acquired
Yeah.
taste.
I watched like.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a very chaotic show. It's a
Yeah.
very chaotic show.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Initially, I
Mm.
felt like sort of similar to you,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh my god, this shows a lot." But actually, I stuck with it, and it's such like a heartwarming
Oh
story.
my gosh.
There's nothing, to be fair. Like one thing that the show is actually very peculiar. Like nothing really amazing or spectacular. It's not like supernatural or
Hmm.
anything crazy happens. It's literally just following the lives of people who are working together to achieve a particular goal, although like it's quite a difficult goal they're trying to achieve, and also like following how the dynamics of the relationship change, how they all grow as people throughout the whole experience, and yeah, it's basically based like on a chef
Hmm.
who inherits his brother's restaurant who committed suicide, and it's a restaurant in Chicago. So obviously there's a lot of challenges around that in itself because
Yeah.
that is very expensive city, obviously, and yeah. And he's basically trying to build his restaurant back up from scratch,
Hmm.
and it's following his journey with the staff there and all that. And obviously, still grieving his brother as well, and has very troubling family dynamics. So yeah, like it's at the end, like when I finished, I was like, wow, this is was so like it's so like satisfying to see like the end
Hmm.
of well, I think there's been two seasons, like end of second season, because it's like, oh my god, they've come so far, and
Wow.
yeah, it's really good actually.
Incredible. I could
Really good.
tell. I could tell that there was something there, but I don't know. Maybe it was when I don't know. I think started watching like in the middle of the night. I just didn't
Oh
have
yeah, no, 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 it's too much.
patience.
It can be a lot because
Yeah.
like one thing that they do very well is like they use sound
Mm.
to like create a lot of tension. So like literally all through
Mm.
the episodes they're like shouting at each other, there's pots and pans banging, but like it's meant to like make you feel as uncomfortable as the people feel
Yes.
in that
In this situation,
situation.
I
Yeah.
noticed that it felt
And
very
yeah, you
claustrophobic.
feel like you're
That
in
initial
there
episode in the kitchen.
with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you feel like you're in the kitchen.
Yeah. It
And it can
was.
be very uncomfortable at first, but it takes a while for you to actually get used to it. But yeah, like actually like yeah, it's just incredible. I think it's
N-
a really, really
It's
good
it's really well shot
show.
as well. I remember the opening scene, the cinematography in the opening scene, like it was really impressive. It was almost giving like yeah, it was giving like movie vibes.
Mm.
Very interesting camera work and yeah, just editing and yeah, it looked really good. I'll give it a second try.
Yeah, yeah, give it another try. I mean, yeah, it's not. I won't say it's a show for everyone though. If
Yeah.
you're someone who's like, yeah, if you don't really like noisy shows,
Yeah.
I don't think it's a show for you. It's very noisy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Otherwise,
a lot of noise. It
it's really
was a
good show.
lot of noise.
Yes, it was. It was. But yeah, that's my vibe.
These are
I'm trying,
really
I'm trying to give a non-anime vibe this time because
wow. That deserves an applause, I
yes,
think.
exactly. I
That
was
deserves
listening
an
to a
applause.
few of the. I was like, oh my god, I sound like such a weeb.
Every
So
single vibe you've
yes,
given
it's an
has
anime,
been
and
an
I had
anime.
to literally, you know, hold myself back.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know,
I can tell you did some
yeah,
soul searching.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't just live in like my mom's basement or something. I actually venture into the world of real people. So yeah, that's
Yes,
great.
that's good. That's so good. Wow. So I guess now is the time to delve into the riveting story of Shaka Zulu, the
Yep,
chieftain of the Zulu tribe, a man whose life was as extraordinary as it was controversial,
yep,
known as the African Napoleon, with his military genius and yeah, just the way he was able to grow hundreds of South African tribes under the Zulu Empire. So we're going to delve into Shaka Zulu today.
yep. So basically, as Temi has so well put it, I can't speak English, guys. Sorry. As Temi has put it, yeah, he's known as a very great leader. Obviously, had his controversies as any leader would have, but I would say he's one of the most popular leaders in um, South Africa's history.
Yeah.
So he's known to be the founder of Southern Africa's Zulu Empire. And if you don't know about the Zulu Empire, it was a great monarchy in Southern Africa.
Hmm,
And today it is estimated that the Zulu people make up about 20% of South Africa's population.
hmm,
And it ruled from about like the 1810s until it's it was conquered by the British in 1879. But yeah, the Zulu kingdom was basically the largest in southeastern Africa, occupying most of what is the KwaZulu Natal province today in South Africa. But yeah, before going into more, anybody that is from SA, I'm really sorry if I butcher any pronunciations. I mean no disrespect, but um, yes, I'm not very used to pronouncing some of these names, so forgive me if I butcher them.
yeah.
So his life story is really amazing, and I would encourage you to look into it more because obviously this is going to be a bit reductive because we're limited for time, and obviously we're trying to give you a good overview of his entire life. But he was the son of Senzan Gakona, who was the chieftain of the Zulu, which at the time was actually a very like small, insignificant chiefdom. And his father's family had been ruling this chiefdom for many generations. Um, and he was also the son of Nandi, who was an orphan princess from a neighboring clan called the Langeni clan. His birth was a point of contention. It wasn't very supported by people in the community, and there are few theories as to why this was. One story claims that the couple were not married yet, according to traditional custom. Another claims that he was born in Langeni territory, which is where his mom is from. Another states that it is because his parents were from the same clan. So there's like a lot of different reasons why his birth wasn't very, you know, was looked down upon. But regardless of the reason, their union and birth of Shaka was basically met with a lot of reproach in the community. Yeah, a bit of a a funny story about Shaka's birth. I mean, it's not funny for him, but just like the circumstances of his birth and conception were just. I feel like his father at every turn was trying to like reject reject him and deny the pregnancy at every turn. And it is rumored that his name actually came about due to how his father was trying to deny the pregnancy.
Hmm,
Basically, he said that his mother wasn't pregnant but was suffering from an intestinal condition caused by the Shaka beetle. Um, and yeah, I'm just like, wow, this guy was really trying to wash his hands off of this. But eventually, he um, then claimed the paternity and accepted them into obviously his community. Unfortunately, Their relationship between Nandi, which is his mother, and his father broke down, and then he was sent away with his mom at the age of just 6 years old.
Hmm.
So basically, he grew up without a father from a very young age. Um, and obviously, this is a very like masculine, I would say like masculine figure. And yeah, thinking about the fact that he didn't grow up with a father. I mean, that must have been very quite sad
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah.
Um, so went back to live with his mom's people, the Langeni clan, but unfortunately, Shaka still couldn't catch a break. He was, a victim of extreme bullying from boys in that clan, and then eventually they were driven out from that clan as well. Um, and but they found shelter in another clan in the Sheni clan,
Hmm.
which is like a sub clan of a powerful chieftaincy. He still had some bullying there, but I think at that point he settled down there, and he eventually grew up to be a very tall, talented, powerfully built man. Is how he was described, and he was called to serve as part of the military by the chief of the Infetwa Empire, Dingiswayo, where he was known for his brilliance as a warrior. And throughout all this, Shaka still held this ambition of wanting to go back um, to his original chiefdom and claim that claim the Zulu clan. So when his father died, he was released from service to fulfill this ambition. So he took over the Zulu by plotting the killing of his brother, and that is when he began to create the Zulu Empire. He used his experience serving as a warrior to revolutionize the Zulu army, and I didn't go into too deep into how he did this, but um, yeah, Temi can tell us a bit more about how he basically had this revolutionary strategy, which
Yeah, that is such a good, I think, intro into um yeah, his origins and kind of where he came from. Um very, very detailed, actually. And it just shows how obviously that initial rejection that he faced in those early years of his life, how that kind of molded him and molded his character, um, planted the seeds of, determination in him, also determination, and also probably some revenge as well, on which we're going to see on the people who he felt did him and his mother wrong. So we're going to see that um subsequently. So yeah, just going back to kind of where kind of his war history. So at the age of 21, Shaka got his first taste of warfare. And as you said, he was this, really tall, kind of steady force. 6 foot 3 inches is what the
oh wow,
records suggest. Yeah, armed with an assegai and sturdy oval shield. Those were his like weapons of choice. He demonstrated his prowess in battles where the display of strength often outweighed bloodshed. So how his military genius kind of became evident, he actually adapted and improved his combat tools. So I think in his tribe they were more likely to use cowhide sandals, and he discarded this for increased speed, and also designed a new weapon called the Iklwa, a short sword that makes a distinct sound when thrust and withdrawn from opponent's body.
oh god,
Yeah, yeah. So he was quite an innovator in that sense. And in a time when tribal clashes in South Africa were more, they were more kind of about the pomp and circumstance than the actual battle. He was quite a game changer. Basically, there was like ceremonial spear tossing that kind of occurred between rival tribes. So just kind of give you an image of that. Just picture opposing fighters standing 35 to 45 meters apart, armed with long spears and tall shields, throwing their spears in arcs and mostly missing their targets. And so the fighting before Shaka kind of came and revolutionized the military was basically it would conclude once both sides had exhausted their spears and there were like hardly any casualties.
Mm.
So, Shaka being, who he thought the whole thing was quite ineffective, inefficient, and it wasn't really um probably thought it wasn't he just wasn't content with it, and he felt like, that's
Very
not,
effective.
yeah, it's not enough of a show of force, and it's not effective. So around 1800 he introduced the Iklua,
Mm.
um and basically with that he would hunt down opposing warriors, hooking shields and delivering those fatal stabs that I described earlier. He didn't completely abandon the traditional long throwing spear. It did serve a purpose to attack enemy formations from a distance before warriors closed in for hand to hand combat with the deadly Iklua. And they also carried, the Zulu warriors also carried like long handled clubs for added versatility. Clearly he was a very innovative, strategic thinker. He also developed something called the buffalo formation, a set of tactics that made his warriors nearly unbeatable. So the formation, described as a chest which confronted the enemy head on,
Mm.
whereas the horns tried to encircle the foe. And then the reserve force, known as the loins, stood ready to prevent any enemy escape. Some historians have likened the Zulus to the Spartans of Africa.
Oh,
Shaka forced his warriors to toughen their feet, as earlier, by discarding sandals, um, which, as I said earlier, made them faster and more agile in the battlefield. Dingiswayo, so the chieftain that kind of was a mentor figure to Shaka, he laid the groundwork for the command structure that would become synonymous with Shaka's name. When um, Shaka's father passed away in 1816, Shaka, who was already a respected commander, returned to lead the Zulu, the smallest of the region's Bantu clans at the time. Shaka also refined the age grade system of the Ibutho into an age based regimental organization, complete with fortified villages, uniform heraldry, and they had to all swear loyalty to him. Um, so the military strategies and tactics were also formalized and standardized.
mm.
He also introduced a merit based system for promoting officers, transforming competent warriors into an unstoppable force. These changes, much like the Roman legions under Marius, turned the Zulu into a formidable military machine. So, with a growing army and alliances with several other tribes, Shaka ascended to power. He united the Zulu kingdom, a domain that extended over 100 square miles, and emerged as a formidable leader. He had this insatiable thirst for conquest, and his first target was the Langeni, that tribe that Lade mentioned earlier, that
So I'm coming
humiliated.
back for you.
Yeah, he said, "You guys are going to pay for what you did." That humiliated him as a child. And actually, it said that Dingiswayo was actually assassinated by a rival, by chief, Zulu chief Zwide, which ignited a civil war actually within the Zulu um, itself.
I actually heard something quite interesting about that. That I don't know if you have it there as well, but I was reading something about how there are rumors that he may have had a hand in um,
Dingiswayo's
death and
assassination.
assassination.
Yeah.
Because I think in a way when Dingiswayo died, it's sort of because he was so kind of acting under the authority of him because he's the one that allowed him to leave the military to conquer the Zulu.
Hmm.
But once he died, he was able to then expand it under like Shaka was able to expand it under his own name, and he didn't
Yes.
have any limits
Yeah.
anymore. And I think something about him, Dingiswayo called for help, but Shaka only came after he'd already been killed.
Wow.
So there's some rumors that could he possibly have had a hand in that. But I mean, like I said, with oral tradition, it is so difficult to say what
Happened.
exactly happened.
Wow, wow, that's definitely brings a different angle to things. But yeah, it's not, I mean, looking, obviously I'm going to talk a bit more about, some of the, you know, things that Shaka is rumored to have done that made him such a controversial figure. Looking at those things, that doesn't really seem too far fetched that he
Mm,
potentially had a hand in that, because obviously his aim at that point was kind of, to gain as much power as possible. And if he was still under the authority of Dingiswayo, that would obviously have limited him. But with him out of the
yeah,
picture, that allowed him to emerge as kind of
the
the
leader of that
the
region.
leader,
Yeah,
of the Zulus, and gave him, free reign of military strategy. And yeah, just he was, yeah, the supreme leader, pretty
and so
much.
very ambitious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So where we left off, so was rumored that Dingiswayo was assassinated by the Zulu chief Zwide, which ignited a full-scale civil war among the Zulu. But against the odds, Shaka's forces, though outnumbered, routed Zwide's army at the Battle of Gokli Hill. The Zulu then became a force to be reckoned with in South Africa. And Shaka's reign, obviously, he someone that ambitious and that innovative will probably be marred. You can expect that it would have been marred by a lot of opposing figures.
yeah,
And obviously, compared to what warfare was before he kind of took the reins and what it became after he took the reins, there was kind of this escalation of warfare into like near extermination. Whereas before, they were ineffectively like throwing those long spears, in almost a ceremonial way, not actually causing any significant harm to the opponents, to using those small swords to kind of stab,
encourage like close
yeah,
combat.
and give,
Yeah,
yes, cause some serious body harm. So it kind of transformed into more of fighting, was more transformed from more of a ceremonial thing to actual, like there was more bloodshed basically under Shaka's reign. Several historical records state that his rule was marked by cruelty, and his methods grew increasingly brutal as he expanded his influence. He ruled without rival over 250,000 people for 10 years. He could assemble more than 50,000 warriors at a time, and it said that he was responsible for the death of some 2 million people by warfare alone. But as
wow.
his power grew, so did the darkness within Shaka Zulu. His mother died in 1827, and some say that caused the Zulu king to lose his mind. Overcome with grief, he outlawed farming and the use of milk for a year. Pregnant women and their husbands were murdered. It said that calves were slaughtered so that they would know, quote unquote, so they would know what it was like to lose a mother.
Yeah, I think I also heard that during some of the mourning ceremonies that if people were not showing enough grief or if we thought that they were showing insufficient grief, um, they were put to death, basically.
Yeah.
And his armies were sent out to force the surrounding chiefdoms to grieve. So, I mean, it's sort of a double-edged sword because obviously he seemed like a very intelligent man,
Mm,
but you could tell that his ambition and how power hungry he was then sort of took over, and yeah, he got very yeah he basically just got very carried away with that, and you know wasn't really that really was controversial among the people because yes, he has grown the empire, but at the cost of so many lives and a lot of cruelty as well. So it is difficult to sort of, Um, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like he basically became a tyrant, and people were understandably became fed up with this. Um, to the point where
Mm,
his half brother, a man called Dingawe,
wow.
assassinated him in 1828. Yeah. And tradition holds that his dying words were a dire warning, not just about the growing power of Europeans in South Africa, but about the peril of Zulu disunity. So, kind of from the records I saw, he had a
Mm,
bit of interactions with kind of uh, colonialists, but not. It wasn't. It wasn't like to the point where there were like any battles. I think he was quite cooperative with them from what I read.
in the first white traders arrived like in that region in about 1824, um, and Shaka was at that time in control of a
Hmm.
centralized monarchy which spanned like a massive region. And it said that he basically developed a relationship to them with them, and he was fascinated. I think he felt like he could get more from them by cooperating with them rather than fighting against them, because he was very fascinated by their technology,
Mm.
by their weaponry, and it all like still goes into that, his drive for
Hmm.
ambition, and his fascination with like the art of
Yeah.
war, and and things like that. So he basically
Yeah.
had a I think he had a cordial relationship with them. He wanted to learn more about their technologies, and I think he basically allowed them to live sort of peacefully in their own sort of region. But I'm not sure how much how much they really interacted, and whether there were any disputes between them. But from what I can see, it doesn't look like there were many, or maybe very very few small disputes at the time.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a really interesting tidbit in terms of his interest in new technologies, which obviously is consistent with his personality. People who are kind of pioneers and innovators, they tend to it's not surprising that they're always kind of on the lookout for kind of the next new thing, and they're always keen to learn more. He seemed like that type of person, so it's yeah, not surprising that that was his reaction, and that's the way that he kind of managed that situation. So Shaka's brother, half brother, and the man who allegedly assassinated him, Dingawe, then assumed the throne himself and actually murdered all the Zulus
Oh
who are
my.
likely to remain loyal to Shaka. Shaka's body was buried in an unmarked grave,
Ugh,
marking the end of an
yeah,
era.
that is yeah, and Mark Grave, that's so crazy. Like someone who lived this, amazing. Well, I would say amazing because that makes it seem like it was all positive. But I would say very, eventful life, and or at the end of the day, he died in an unmarked grave. That is, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, as a result of, the controversies, despite being such a consequential figure, his legacy is obviously contested. And actually, in recent years, various historians have kind of challenged the traditional narrative, the
Hmm.
most prominent being Dan Wiley, who argued that colonial writers such as Nathaniel Isaacs and Henry Francis Finn distorted and embellished Shaka's story to serve their own interests.
Yeah, yeah. So there is actually something I found that said that there is actually correspondence between two adventurers who so the main two adventurers, that their diaries were pulled from to get a lot of Shaka Zulu's like history and life story.
Hmm.
There's correspondence between them saying, oh, encouraging each other to embellish the stories to attract more readers, And actually, there's reports that well, there are people who dispute actually how much influence Shaka Zulu. Obviously, he was a very great man, but I think there are rumors that obviously that it was over exaggerated
Hmm.
how vast his empire actually was,
Hmm.
and that and also how cruel he was as well. That there are claims that some colonialists or white traders use some of Shaka's stories to cover up their own attacks that they did on the people.
Yeah.
So I think, as with all African, especially older African history, especially ones that are very much gotten in oral tradition and dependent on oral tradition, we should really take all stories with a pinch of salt and not take everything at face face value.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it can't really be disputed that he was still a great leader and obviously
Yeah.
a great conqueror. Don't think that can be disputed.
No. No. Yeah, yeah, you're 100%, 100%. Similar things. It's saying that they painted him as a bloodthirsty tyrant, justifying colonial rule and like land acquisition. And so, as a result of this, the truth remains elusive, and there is a lot
Mm.
that we may never really fully understand about Shaka Zulu. um and yeah, it's a compelling, his story is quite very compelling, and obviously there are a number of things, contentious points of it, for the reasons that Ladi has mentioned. But it's still very interesting, an interesting, enigmatic, um yeah, curious figure in African history. And so, just to kind of close on Shaka Zulu, I'm just going to kind of cover just a few lesser known facets of his life and character.
Mhm.
Um, so, obviously, we mentioned earlier that he was a very curious person. Um, so he just really wanted to understand how things worked, even if it meant by utilizing unconventional methods. One incident that is mentioned, I'm not sure how true this is, involved slicing open a live pregnant woman's belly
Oh
to
God.
observe how the unborn child occupied the space. It's also said that he once ordered a man's eyes to be removed to witness how he adapted to blindness.
Oh. Oh. I wish you could see our faces right now. Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. We don't exactly like I said, we don't know how true these stories are. Uh, but yeah. I mean, yeah, it's very difficult to tell. But yeah, if that is true, that is so brutal. But at the same time, you know, I feel like so many war crimes have been committed in the world history. So yeah, this is a part of them. A part of
Very true. Another intriguing aspect of his character, also kind of in the same vein as his curiosity, he had a lot of like wanderlust. So he rarely sat indoors and was always exploring, traveling the land on foot. And apparently, many places in KwaZulu Natal bear names associated with Shaka's first interactions with them, revealing his many adventures and experiences.
oh, that is actually that's very interesting. Yeah, he just seemed like somebody who yeah just had this like um lust for knowledge and
Hmm.
as much information. I mean, I think everything was to fuel obviously his ambition to conquer. But
Yes.
yeah, it
Yes.
was it was yeah, he seemed like just like a very obviously intelligent but yeah, also very curious individual, which is probably how he became so intelligent because of how
Yeah.
curious he
Yeah,
was. So
yeah. He also is said to have had a Spartan approach to governance. His capital, Kwabulayo, earned its name meaning where they are killed, because it was where those deemed unfit to live were brought to meet their end. This included short men,
oh,
troops with back wounds, and anyone who defied his authority.
of course, yeah, yeah. One theme I'm seeing. is him just like if you like oppose him in any way, like yeah,
You
y-
gone.
you go you ain't gonna last long
You are
in the
not.
Zulu Empire
You are not.
under Shaka's reign.
You are not.
So
And the discriminate justice for short man. Like,
yeah,
is that a crime?
shop and just be about their lives,
Yeah.
and they just
And
be catching strays.
yeah, this is a fully full straight situation. Like, what does being short
just
have
just
to do
sitting,
with
just
like
sitting in their little huts, you
ah
know, trying to light a fire, and then people are
yeah,
coming for them.
I wonder like you it makes me wonder, like was there like a threshold, like if you are above five, below 5'7", like how are they deciding
Yeah.
who, what is short enough, what is tall enough? Very, very
Justice for short
yes, please.
men.
Justice for short men. His vision, obviously, for the Zulu clan was revolutionary. His aim was to unify the Zulu tribes, and obviously, he used warfare to achieve this, instilling both fear and respect. Some tribes, though, were won over through patronage and rewards rather than intimidation. So, like, kind of like the reward system he had for soldiers who showed, promising, who are very promising, and they, receive promotions as a result. Chiefs from neighboring tribes who surrendered became commanders in his own tribe, expanding the Zulu clan significantly.
I think it's very easy to pay him as like just like this one tone person, like just like he was just ruthless and everything. But I mean, obviously, he was obviously very multidimensional, and if you're just looking at his life backstory, like yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
can't really the way he was brought up, like yeah, it sort of molded him into
Definitely.
what he became later on. Yeah.
Definitely. Um, And despite his authoritarian rule, he respected a select few people who dared to challenge his decisions. One of them was, I am so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce this, but I will try. Nekelengele Kamuv
Come on, you can do it.
Kamuviana, a stranger who earned Shaka's respect. Another was Zulu Kanogandaya, Shaka's protege who enjoyed equal rights and even dined with the king.
Oh, a dinner with the king.
Yeah. He also, Shaka, unsurprisingly, had a unique stance on marriage. I mean, someone who is cutting open pregnant women's bellies to look inside,
Hmm.
suggesting a bit of, I'm not sure about how he viewed women. He forbade his troops, including old men, from marrying, believing that marital affairs would weaken their combat skills. He saw himself as their protector from the perceived evils of marriage.
Oh,
Yeah. Possibly also because of, his upbringing and
yeah,
kind of how his father treated his mother. He's just like, it's just, yeah, it's not the
yeah,
drama. There's a lot of drama and there's a lot of, probably there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of hurt and pain that comes from, relationships and marriage. And so he probably felt like, yeah, it's better if you guys just focus on,
yeah. Just don't get married.
yeah, just don't get married. Focus on your work.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes complete sense why he would. I mean, his own. It was rumored that his own parents were not married at the time they
Yes.
conceived him.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So the story of his demise, or even though kind of it's alleged that his half brother was the person that assassinated him, um, demise it's a bit up in the air. Um, an oral testimony from the James Stewart archive suggests a different narrative that Shaka may have actually been killed by or at the direction of Mbofa, a servant seeking vengeance for his mother's death at Shaka's hands.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure he had obviously a lot of allies, but also had probably lots of enemies. So I can't imagine that he felt very safe
Yeah.
at all times. He probably was always looking over his shoulder, which is probably why he was so paranoid and just killed anybody who he thought was going to oppose him.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's the thing you tend to see with a lot of like tyrants and despots. Obviously, they have this really initial like aggressive approach, and then they realize, oh, I'm maybe making enemies, killing everyone in this way, and so they become really paranoid.
yep.
And yeah, they just spiral, and that seems to be what happened with Shaka Zulu.
Mm, yeah. Um, there is a story about what he said when his was being killed by
Hmm,
his brother.
hmm.
Um, it's quite interesting actually. So it is rumored that while he was obviously being attacked by his brother, he said, "Hey brother, you kill me thinking you will rule, but the swallows will do that." And by the swallows, he probably meant the white people, because they made their houses of mud like the swallows. And I think apparently when they heard this, they pounced on him even more. And
Wow.
as he was taking his last breath,
Breath.
he said, "Are you stabbing me, kings of the earth? You will come to an end through killing one another." So yeah, it's interesting how he, eh, found thought the white people would like the travelers and the adventurers and the colonialists would eventually rule, which actually ended up
Yeah,
happening.
it did.
Um,
It did.
so I think part of the reason why he probably was trying to keep a good relationship with them was to avoid that. Um, and maybe he sensed that if with his death they would turn against the Zulu Empire. But yeah, that is that is very interesting.
Quite a brutal story and quite a yeah, it's quite an interesting one. I think yeah, I think even like delving into his history and learning more about him was just so yeah, just really compelling. And yeah, I'm keen to do kind of maybe you guys tell us your thoughts on this episode, and whether you would like us to do more legends, such as and historical figures, pivotal historical figures such as Shaka Zulu, because yeah, we're keen to hear what you guys think about this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, guys.
Thank you for listening. But before we close, you know the drill. It's time for African proverb of the day.
Woohoo.
Yeah. So, Lade, do you want to kick us off with some deep, deep proverbs?
Well, I have one.
Yeah.
So the one that I have chosen is, "You can learn wisdom at your grandfather's feet or at the end of a stick." So do with that what you will.
Wow. Wow. Okay. The second proverb we're gonna share, I will just say this. I think this is Zulu. Yeah, I think it is. So it's kuko mango ongeleaba. I'm sorry, guys. We've told you guys this situation. This is the situation. So yeah, this is where things stand. There is no hillside without a grave. Is it the translation? And yeah, it's quite an interesting one that I think when you think about Shaka's story, yeah, it's relevant. And the last proverb Inkunzi Isematholeni.
That was actually very. I mean, to be fair, I'm not an authority
I
on
don't
what it
know, but it
sounds.
sounds authentic.
Why it sounded authentic. It was very
Please let
confident.
us know, what you guys thought. Just about that. Nothing else.
Nothing
Just
else.
that
Nothing
word.
else.
Translation: the bull is among the calves. So yeah, that's also a nice one, I think. Very relevant to Shaka Zulu.
Yeah, definitely. So, thanks for listening, guys.
Au
Let us
revoir.
know what you thought, and Shaka Zulu's life is very interesting. If you'd like to do some more research or
Yeah,
information,
yeah.
just
And
give you a little bit of a
yeah, and
intro.
yeah, and obviously, guys, obviously, I would go back to the initial vibes of the week.
Yes, yes,
TMI, as I said, this this is a revolutionary artist, and just plug in. We'll leave the link in the bio so you guys can be blessed. Be blessed.
yes. And as usual, it is all vibes.
Yes.
So if there was any historical inaccuracies, we like I'd like to just give that caveat just for a little reminder
Yeah,
that
guys,
just vibes.
it's all
So
vibes.
yeah, if they're inaccurate, please educate us. We
Educate
are
us. Like, we're here to learn.
we're
We're
here
here
to
to
learn.
learn. As I said, we are not authorities on any of these subjects.
Yeah,
We
honestly,
are
not even close.
mythologists.
By name only.
Yes, that's all.
By name only.
We are not qualified to be doing this,
Nothing else.
but we're doing this out of an interest and a curiosity, in our history, our culture, where we come from, why things are the way they are today, and just wanting to kind of, appreciate more the beauty and the diversity of, African history and culture.
Yeah.
So that's the vibe. That's the vibe. It's a very, very simple vibe. Okay. Okay. No complexity. No complexity. Okay, guys.
That's
Have a
on
good
that.
week. That's on that. Have a good week.